Being a chartered manager means that you are a specialist in that area, and it means you've got all the skills to do the job to the best of its ability.
You are seen as a leader, a true leader who has credentials behind the great work you've already been doing.
It's enhanced my understanding, it's enhanced my skill set, it's improved my mindset.
It makes all the difference.
This session is recorded and will be available on the CMI website and YouTube channel. Join the conversation by using the live chat box for your questions and comments. We'll answer as many as we can during the Q&A.
Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the High Impact Management, Leadership, Inclusion and Culture digital event. My name is Mary and I'm an event delivery coordinator at CMI. Don't forget to join the conversation by using the live chat box, and feel free to ask any questions you have for the speakers, and we'll answer as many questions as possible during the Q&A session. I will now hand over to Donna Goodall, the Deputy Chair and Regional Stakeholder Lead at CMI West Midlands and North West Regional Board, to begin today's event.
Thank you, Mary. Hi and welcome everybody, CMI members and friends, to today's exciting digital event, High Impact Management, Leadership, Inclusion and also Culture. I'm Donna Goodall, the Deputy Chair of the CMI West Midlands and North West Regional Board, and I'll be hosting today's amazing event. We have an excellent panel in store for you today that are all going to give some really great advice given their extensive experience. Please, as Mary's already said, don't forget to put in the comments any questions that you've got throughout the event, because we will be having a Q&A session later. And also let us know where you're joining from today, because that's always interesting to see all of you, where you're coming from. I'd like to welcome our first speaker, which is Dr. Petra Gwilliam. Welcome and thank you for joining us today, Dr. Petra. Dr. Petra has over 30 years experience at the NHS in psychological graduate and has built a career dedicated to supporting those who lead and those that they lead. As a consultant clinical psychologist and chartered coaching psychologist, she specialises in bringing psychological proactively and also preventatively into leadership. She helps leaders stay well, think clearly and also lead with compassion so that their teams can thrive. As a founder of Psychology, Petra focuses on increasing psychological insight about what matters most to people, forming the foundation for sustainable leadership that lasts and benefits for individuals and organisations. Welcome, Dr. Petra.
Thanks. Thank you for inviting me. Great. Well, thank you both to Mary and to Donna for inviting me, and welcome. It's really good to see everybody, although I can't see you at the moment. So yeah, I have a background in clinical psychology, predominantly within the NHS, but I've worked with a wide range of organisations and offer clinical work still, but also coaching and consultation, using a blend of evidence-informed approaches. I thought about, a long time ago, how do we navigate workplace challenges and pressures, particularly as leaders? And one of my aspirations has been to move psychology into leadership and organisational well-being, to do things more proactively and preventatively and more sustainably. And that's why I set up Psychology because it's psychology. But the B partly is to spread psychological ideas more widely and making them more accessible. So sort of pollinating that systemic ripple effect. And also because I trained and work in Manchester, and the B is a Manchester symbol. So it's linking work to place and community. I've got just a few slides, so and there are some images on the slides, so I'll talk through them, but I'll ensure that they've been checked for accessibility before they go out. So when I think in psychology we try and make complex things seem more straightforward to make it more accessible. So I currently sharing sort of 3 elements of work and thinking about this across high impact management in terms of leadership, inclusion and culture, and I think they all fit in with all of my 3 elements that I'm using today, but I'll address the first one first around leadership, and I've put that under my kind of think well element. So I think about leadership as one of the things that we can do is to develop self-awareness and psychological flexibility. and think about the relationship we have with ourselves. And we often talk about this as a kind of skills for the mind. Some of the work I do in this regard is from acceptance and commitment therapy or coaching. And on this slide, there are three sort of pillars here. So we've got a noticing pillar. And this is about strengthening our awareness. So noticing what's inside us and around us. So having a different kind of awareness. We often go around on autopilot. So it's strengthening what we notice in the world, being aware of our thoughts and feelings and perspective. And I do a lot of work with leaders on this. It's encouraging present moment awareness. So having contact with the here and now, not dwelling on the past or worrying about the future. So strengthening our present moment awareness. And there's another part of the noticing element, which is something we call our observing self. So that's about noticing our experience without being defined by it. So these are some of the skills that I talk to leaders about. The second element here is the open element. And this is how we skillfully relate to our inner world. This is kind of our sensations, thoughts, urges, feelings, that kind of thing. This includes the willingness to experience discomfort in our thoughts without avoidance. We can call that acceptance, so making space for emotions or diffusion. So creating some healthy distance between us and our thoughts, and stepping back from the thoughts. This is just a very brief introduction, by the way. And then the active pillar. This is how do we take values-driven action? So using our personal values as a guide, actively moving towards our values. So values in this context are what we do. This is about how do we do what matters to us most. They're kind of our guiding direction. The other part of this is taking committed action to those things that matter to us. Those kind of consistent, concrete steps. And in the work that I do, the values, which I'll mention later, are that I regularly use are curiosity, compassion, and connection. I'll put some working examples on here, but I'll cover the elements first, and if there's time, I can move on to those. Could I have the next slide, please? So the next element I use in the work is about working well. So how do we think well? Let's think about how do we work well. And for the title of this project, I've thought about the inclusion element of it. So how do we deepen meaning and connection through purposeful work? And I think about this as our relationship with our work. Our why. Why do we do what we do? Why have we gone into the work that we've gone into? And this can often be from a place of challenge or of particular strength or of wanting to contribute in systemic ways. And this is, I think, is for all of us. We all have our own relationship with work. And under this element that I use a different blend of different theories from clinical and occupational psychology. I think work gives us our identity, meaning, and our belonging. And we often think about as we're interdependent, aren't we? We're all dependent on each other in many ways. We come into the world relying on other human beings. So it's key to our existence. And I think about managers as providing a secure base for our colleagues to support our exploration and our growth, but also a safe haven, so that sense of containment in times of stress. And I think inclusion shapes how we relate. We relate to something, we're part of something bigger. In this element, I think about our strengths, so having inclusive job design. So are we seen at work or are we overlooked? Our preferences, our different working styles. And I think personality elements come into this quite a lot. What are our personality preferences? Roles, what roles we have. We need clarity over our roles, don't we? And we need fairness. There's the risk of carrying an invisible load or of being sidelined. And I think this is really important to hold in mind. And of our needs, we all need to belong. We all need fairness. We all need to have a voice. We all need to be able to grow. The diagram I've included here is a sort of a reciprocal relationship between well-being and performance. Because I think when we are feeling well, we perform well. And inclusion, I think inclusion increases our sense of belonging and then leads to a reduction in stress, and that can increase our performance. When our performance is recognised with recognition and value, people feel competent and motivated and well. So I think that's why I try and include that sort of the diagram there around the well-being and performance being reciprocal. Together, I think this leads to sustainability for individuals and organisations. So we can retain talent, we can reduce burnout, and we can embed a sense of purpose. So that's my work well element. And the final element, would it be okay to move slides, please, is the lead well element. So we're thinking well, we're working well, we're leading well. And under the lead well element or pillar, I've talked about culture. I'm thinking about culture. So how do we build compassionate, psychologically safe relationships? And this is our relationship with other people. And in compassionate work, I draw on the work of Paul Gilbert, who's a professor in clinical psychology, and talks about compassion-focused therapy or compassionate mind training. And in this definition, the definition of compassion is a sensitivity to suffering in ourselves or other people, and a commitment to try and alleviate or prevent it. And it's often thought of as being kind of the antidote to difficult feelings and shame. And we think about compassion flowing three ways. So how does it flow from ourselves to other people, particularly in roles of work? Can we also receive it? How does it flow from others to ourselves? And how does it flow from ourselves to ourselves? So including ourselves on the people to whom we're being kind. And I think that's often quite a difficult one. Self-compassion is something that that people find tricky. The three circles here, there's a red circle which defines threat, a drive circle which is blue here, and a soothing circle. And Paul Gilbert talks about us balancing three emotional regulation systems, and we need to do that in roles as managers and leaders for ourselves, but also for our teams. And these are the three elements coming from us as evolutionary humans. The threat system is our protection and survival system. So we need belonging, approval, control, and we can compare. The drive system is achievement and resource seeking. So this is about our motivation, which is really important. But however, if it's overplayed, this can lead to overwork, competition, and burnout. So we need to be able to balance the threat, because we need to know if we need to survive or if something is threatening us. We need to balance that with drive, but also our soothing system. And this is our contentment and connection system. This is what keeps us psychologically safe, to be able to admit mistakes, share ideas, and support each other. So that was a bit of a whistle-stop tour, but in my three elements of thinking well, working well, and leading well, I hope that leads to high-impact management in terms of leadership and developing self-awareness, and that's around my value of curiosity. My second value is around connection, and I've presented that here under inclusion, so strengthening our connection with each other through purposeful work. And in terms of my value of compassion, I've included that here in the element on culture, so building psychologically safe relationships which are based on compassion. And that's it. Thank you for listening.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Petra. I'm sure everybody will agree with me that was really insightful, so interesting. And I'd love to have heard more actually, as you've gone into that, because I think that we could probably all resonate with certain things that you've been saying there. And I love psychology with the connection with the pollination, and also the connection to Manchester too. So that's I didn't realise that, so that's great. But yeah, absolute brilliant. And I think, as you say, to lead well, relationships with others, you've got to have a compassionate mind, And it's been really interesting to see how you say about noticing, being open and being active as well. So yeah, all that's resonated with me, and it's given me a lot of food for thought there for moving forward with different things, and how that we can create that more psychological, safe relationship. And also, as you say, basing it on compassion, I think, is a different way of looking at it. And so that people feel safe makes people feel included. So absolutely brilliant. So thank you, Petra. That's been great. And we look forward to finding out more about that as well. Brilliant. So I now move on to our next speaker, and as I say, like today's event, so brilliant, but our next speaker is Kim Marrow. So Kim is a digital transformational leader who's got over 25 years of experience driving innovation at intersection of supply chain and also technology. As a consulting manager from a former program manager, she has led large-scale change programs that blend operational excellence with inclusive leadership. So key here to everything that today's about. She's also a SAP transformational specialist, and Kim focuses on digital core solutions that empower the people and also in turn then turn that into performance. She's passionate about building cultures where collaboration, diversity and strategic thinking all thrive. So many thanks for Kim for joining us today, and over to you.
Okay, thanks very much, Donna. Thanks, Mary, for having me here today. So yes, I'm Kim Morrow. I work for the Config team. So we do pride ourselves on the Config team. We're an SAP consultancy, a family business, and like Amazon, we last year celebrated 30 years of innovation. So thanks very much for having me today. Can we move to the next slide? Thanks, Mary. Okay, so I just wanted to I suppose as business leaders, we do carry a responsibility to ensure that, those in our workplace, feel seen, feel heard and feel valued. But along with that, it goes beyond the moral imperative that inclusion, as Dr. Petra mentioned and talked about inclusion, it does lead to strategic advantage. So I was just going to focus on why inclusion matters and the business case with a focus on diversity and inclusion. Diversity is important. It is the representation of our workforce, but it is a numbers game, whereas inclusion has impact. It responds to a problem. So let's look at what research is saying of how inclusion drives performance. So an inclusive culture at work leads to higher levels of employee engagement. Companies with higher gender diversity are 27% more likely to experience above average profitability. Inclusive workplace cultures reduce staff turnover by 22%. Companies with inclusive cultures are 1.7 times more likely to be innovation leaders in their market. Inclusion teams make better, more collaborative decisions. And yeah, interestingly, 86% of millennials and Gen X consider diversity when choosing employers. So that leaves us with a couple of questions for ourselves. Is inclusion our most underused tool for innovation? And also, what is the cost of exclusion to your business? What's the cost of great talent leaving our business because they don't feel included? If we just move on to the next slide. So I was hoping to help us today by sharing 10 steps for building inclusive workplace culture. I'll not go through them all. Some will already be doing, I'll pick out a couple, some we'll discuss in the Q&A. But I think what really is important is moving this from a conversation to commitment. In the UK, we would say walk the walk, not just talk the talk. But what I really liked was this African proverb, when you pray, move your feet. And just a call for action for us to just be creative and just think about those strategic goals for inclusion and take action. So if we just lift some from these, if I lift foster mentorship programs, it makes me think of, I work in the SAP world, it makes me think of SAP. In 2011, SAP, decided to do more in gender diversity. So they set themselves a target, they took action, they held themselves accountable, they became creative to meet that target, and they set themselves a target to ensure that women were represented by minimum 19% in their leadership team. So they fostered mentorship programs, You know, they sort of paired up executive with, you know, some emerging talent, etc. You know, they had tailored training programs. They looked at their HR and recruitment to make it much more inclusive. And they not only met their target, but they actually exceeded it. And today, although, you know, they can still do more, it's at 35%. And so they did exceed that 19% target. If I also highlight ERGs, so employee resource groups are really important. You know, they are a safe space for underrepresented groups, but they do much more as well. You know, examples of these in my world would be women in SAP, women in tech, but others you'll recognise Pride at Work. There's veteran groups. You know, they really are powerful advocates for underrepresented groups. They also increase demand. You know, I suppose that it improves, you know, the sort of attraction of your business, you know, for in those recruitment processes. So yeah, really good examples there. We can move to the next slide, please, Mary. Okay, so here's some more examples. These are the giants. It was really interesting before today when I reached out to my network and just asked for examples of really positive examples of where inclusion has really worked and happened in their workplace. But let's look at the giants for now. So here's Google. So what they've done is, as part of their broader DEI strategy, they've implemented unconscious bias training. You know, it's had really good success for them. What they did was they created training modules. They incorporated that into recruitment processes and performance evaluation. And they still sort of build on that, you know, collateral to keep reinforcing the message. And they've seen a real improvement in just breaking down barriers to inclusion and just that ignorance, really. We could move on. Mary, thank you. Okay, and for me, you know, it is, I just wanted to highlight the digital transformation, you know, can be a catalyst for culture change. You know, if the impact of digital transformation is managed positively, you know, it really does have a positive effect on cultural shift. You know, if employees, you know, can share their ideas, give input in a digital transformation, it's so powerful of fueling, you know, innovation and just highlighting new ideas and things. I know for me in managing SAP programs globally, you know, what that could look like is being on a Teams call. You know, on that call are different people, different cultures across different countries, and all working together for one common goal. But being able to achieve that by sharing different perspectives, new ideas, it just fosters that innovation. And again, just all working together for a common goal. It really is, you know, a really good opportunity. It also highlights that technology is an enabler for this. So if I take an example of Unilever, they've incorporated and used AI in their HR processes. And what that is doing is allowing them to screen candidates purely just by skill and, you know, and just, you know, addressing any bias that could be there. You know, they're just using AI as well to tailor development programs and training, you know, so just using tech as an enabler. So let's look at some of the results. So 90% of companies that prioritize digital culture achieve breakthrough performance success. And just you can see at the bottom there, companies embracing digital values are better positioned to adapt and lead in competitive markets. So it just really is a different slant of just some insight, I would say, in my world. And if we just finish with the last slide there, Mary, please. So just some takeaways then. Diverse teams innovate more and perform better. Inclusive leadership is the top driver of employee engagement. Exclusion costs talent. And systems matter. It is really important to incorporate, you know, lots of what Dr. Petra was saying right across the process, you know, right from recruitment through to a development track to leadership. You know, if I just leave you with, you know, just some thoughts from Ken Chenault. He was previously the CEO of American Express. He was a real advocate for their DEI strategy. He now has a startup and, you know, it continues to be an advocate in this area. But his thoughts are of just viewing us as business leaders, that we're, I suppose, serving a diverse society. We're delivering products and services to a diverse society. So how much better could that be if our workforce, you know, represents that diverse society as we serve the society with a much more diverse workforce. And just back to the questions I asked at the beginning, really, is, what is the cost of exclusion to your business, and is inclusion the most underused tool for innovation? Well, thanks very much. Appreciate your time today.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Kim. Well, I'm sure, again, everybody will agree that that was so insightful, really good. Some excellent examples there. So thanks for bringing those to life. And I think the stats said it all, didn't they? Do you know what I mean? So that's another thing that I think makes us all think more today. It's definitely brought that to life. I like that you said about feeling safe, heard and feeling valued, and that makes a difference for you being included and feeling inclusive. So I think we've all got a question to ourselves there to say, are we doing all that we can? And I think from things that you've brought to life there, Kim, I can say that we could all definitely be doing more. I love as well the 10 steps, and yes, definitely we should all be walking the walk. So yeah, brilliant. And I think, yeah, the call to action, creative and take action. I think, yeah, we all, I think, probably thinking that, yes, there's more that we'll be going and doing when we get back into the workplaces. And I did love as well when you pray, move your feet. Yeah, brilliant. Yeah, so again, break down the barriers, I think, obviously, as you've said there, and all work together. And I loved as well that you said technology is an enabler, because I've never really thought of that before, but it definitely is from everything that you've said. So really insightful. So yeah, and yeah, I think question to everybody today as well is, what is the cost of exclusion? And I think Kim's brought to life there many things there, that what it's costing in your organisations if you're not including everybody and making your workplace inclusive. So yeah, thank you very much, Kim. Brilliant. And now on to our third speaker then. So as we say, it's all very exciting today with everybody that we've got. But yeah, I'm sure that you're all enjoying it, and I can see questions coming through. Don't forget that you've still got time to put questions to any of the panel for our Q&A that will be taking place after our next presentation. And I'd like to bring up today and welcome Daniela Pasquariello. I don't know if I've said that with my West Midlands accent as well as it should be, Daniela. But yes, I'd like to welcome Daniela, who brings a unique blend of engineering precision, corporate leadership and also personal transformation. She's got more than one master's degree in engineering and over 20 years aeronautics career at global corporations. She thrives in navigating complexity, so she's definitely got a lot to speak about today and a lot of advice to give us. Her voice extends beyond the corporate world. She's recognised twice as Voice of LinkedIn. She's also got a Google guide that's had over 10 million views, and she's also a certified NLP trainer, and she was trained by Dr. Richard Bandler. Since 2008, she's immersed herself in self-development. And she enjoys this field and learning directly from world-renowned leaders such as Tony Robbins, Dr. Joe Dispenza, and also T. Harv Eker. To stay ahead of the future, she feels that this is key, which she's going to tell us a little bit about today and give a bit of her insight. And as well, she's also an alumni of James Skinner's AI Superhuman Global Programme. So as you can see, she brings a lot to the table today, which is absolutely brilliant. She's going to bring all this together with her engineering precision, corporate leadership and personal transformation into a unique perspective that you just do not want to miss. Over to Daniela. Thank you.
Thank you, Donna, for introduction, and good morning, good afternoon, and good evening from wherever in the world you are attending this event. Today, I would like to speak with you about this topic, where people thrive, organizations thrive, turning simple action into lasting performance. Some day ago, I was walking and I found myself in front of a big fence. It was strong, it was stable. Well, you can see that it's used a lot, but still it was there and looked like so big. When I went through, though, I saw that a fastener was missing. And if a little bit of wind was going through, the whole structure was vibrating. And this called in my mind that probably this is a typical example of what is happening inside big, impressive, but still rattling corporate. Nowadays, we see a lot of corporate. They look like very impressive, very strong. But when you go close, sometimes you realize that there is something which is not perfect. And actually, you need to thrive to that and understand how to move forward. If we consider in my 20-year experience in the industry, I have seen so many changes. And I think one of the biggest one, it has been when the millennium arrived on the job market. Before of them, we had a lot of people that were working like this. They were the manager in command, they're giving action, and people were actually making the job. But today, when millennium arrived on the market, they didn't want to work like this. They wanted to contribute. They want to express their own idea and actually seeing what is happening behind the scene, having a transparency, be creative in the world where they work. The really vertical org chart is not existing anymore in their mentality. And when you think about that, now we have a lot of them, and together with them also the Z generation, then you have to think, is that true that is important? It's not nice to have a thriving environment, but actually a multiplier. So I have done for you some homework where I tried to understand if there were studies that are actually saying that this is true. And I found several of them that are dated starting from 2011. But today I will focus with you with the major one, which I believe are very closer to us, is the MIT one, where they were showing that when there is high trust in an organization, we have 106% more energy for the people, which convert in 50% higher productivity. In the Gallup survey, I suppose in the room there are several people who went through that during the last years. It has been shown that actually engaging employees are able to produce more than the other. There is 21% higher profitability and 17% higher productivity. And the last but not least, the study which came out in the beginning of 2025 from Fortune 100 Best Company, where actually it has been shown that if a colleague feels that is supported from his peer, there is 8.2 times the possibility that he makes a step forward, he walks the extra mile. And this converting money, because actually this brings to 42 higher productivity in the workplace. And if we have the opposite, actually, it's also been shown that last year we have lost $500 billion because of non-engaging working place. When we see that, we have to consider that one important thing happened during this last year. We had the change becoming not anymore an event like that, but something that we breathe continuously. The changing in the aeronautical environment where I work, a sector where I work, it has been happening very quick and with the three major change. First of all, digitalization. By that we had that some projects which before were delivered in years now are delivered in months. Then we had the additive manufacturing, which is 3D printing. With 3D printing in our supply chain, we had parts which were produced before in months, now they are produced in hours. And then we have also the third thing, which is the fact that the aeronautic sector went from 2-polar race to 3-polar race. And so means that on the market arrive new competitor with the new technology. Capacity needs to be competitive with the other, but still we need to have high standard in quality and safety. And now we can reach that. If we have seen the data before and we see that we have an increase in productivity when we create a thriving environment, we have to really think as leader how to bring it in place and exactly where we work. And we have to understand that when there is a changing going on, and now we have said that the change is daily, this is actually something which is faced by the people not always positively. We want to stay in our comfort zone. We don't want to change. But at the time are changing fast. And a clear example I can give you in my job, I was bringing to the production the bending machine, and I had a conversation with the blue collar who was telling me, Daniela, now you are bringing this machine, they are going to take my job. I will be not useful anymore. Why are you doing this to me? And then in that moment, I had to take over his emotional journey and change the perspective. I had to go to it, giving him another way of seeing that. And what I did, I applied a simple technique, which is called name it, normalize it, navigate it. So I told the guy, look, I can understand that bringing this machine to your workplace can give you anxiety. It's normal. But you will see what you are going to learn in the first week you are going to work with them. And by the way, I will be on your side. And you will tell me at the end you have learned a new skill which make you much more suitable for the company that you were before. And once this is done and you are, as leader, able to bring the people to the change, what the people need is to have a trust in the corporate, in the people around them. And how do you do that? People ask transparency, but transparency is not effect all in or nothing. Transparency has to be given in a good way because can actually open new door or shut down the people. When it is positive transparency is when, for example, you give to the people information about what are the priorities so that they can drop all the activity which is not important at the moment. When you can speak with them about risk, because then they know where they can act in the way that the risk doesn't materialize. Or when you explain them there is a career path in their way so they can see the light at the end of the tunnel if some situations are not very pleasant. The backfire you have instead in case you present some information which is partial, a bad news thrown away on the table. Then people does not know what to do about that and they shut down. Or half truth. You don't give a half truth. Wait to know everything about the topic. And moreover, when you bring on the table, tell also the solution, how you overcome the difficulties. And don't breach confidentiality. This has not only consequence from the law and ethics and compliance, but actually is one of the things which break more the trust of the people in you. And said that, another thing which is very important to bring in the workplace is the culture of feedback. Have you ever thought about a feedback as gift? Everybody tell you the feedback as gift is a gift, but sometimes you have felt like it's more like a tax than a gift. This is because maybe it has not been delivered as it should be, because you give a feedback which must be constructive and bring the people to work better, not its punishment. And this how can be done. There are several techniques, but some that I really like about giving the feedback is, first of all, to consider which kind of feedback I have to give. Do I need to give a feedback which is positive? Then I give it in front of the other, because this feedback actually increases the self-esteem of the person. Is the feedback negative? Then I take the person separately and I do the feedback within 48 hours. This is important because the feedback has to be on spot, cannot be delivered 10 years later. So that the person, when you take the person and you speak, and maybe you have to give that corrective action, actually you do that by also telling the person and vocalizing it 4 or 5 positive things you always see in the working with this person, so that actually you are bringing the emotional state to a positive one and not to a shutting one. And these are all the topics I talked until now are concerned with the individual in itself, but how a team is built. This is very important. It's a topic which today is changed a lot. Now there is not anymore a person who interview, the manager who interview the potential employee and taking him based on his own bias and in his own understanding. One thing I have seen changing lately, as I became also part of the process a lot of time, when we have to take a new person in the team, the new team member, they sit in the interview and they actually ask the person what they want to hear. Then the person goes away and then the team remain, and you actually match what the person has said with what are the value inside the company, and what the person has said is against the value of the company. But at the end of the conversation, that in this way we have removed every bias which could exist, and we value the person on the value of the company and not on the vibration that physically we have from this person. What we do is we ask ourselves, if I want to bring this person in my team, what I commit to get this person working very well and reducing this S-curve of some months, if possible. Because in that moment, when you do that with the other people and these people come on board, actually you are having a totally different conversation with the team member, because they take responsibility of the newcomer. But, well, you actually could tell me right now, Daniela, but sometime I inherit a team. I can tell you an experience I had like that. I was arriving in a team, and for the first moment, The air was so, I would say, heavy. People were not looking each other in the eye. The conversation, the parallel conversation, let me call them like this, they had more weight than the agenda. And for sure, these people were not aligned between themselves. How can I pretend them to be aligned with me? So my attitude had to change at the moment. I started to analyze them. Silently, I looked how they worked. And one thing I noticed from the beginning is that in this working place, nobody can apologize. Nobody thinks even it's possible to apologize for a mistake. And for me, recognizing a mistake is not a weakness. Actually, it showed that I don't think myself as flawless, but I think myself as a person who can learn from a mistake. So I did something unexpected. One time I took a wrong decision. So I went to my peer leader and I told him, I'm sorry, I took a wrong decision. Please let me work together to find a way forward. From that moment, the dynamic in the team completely changed because I showed them that you can be human and make mistakes, but still learn from them and do something positive. So in doing like this was extremely positive, the attitude from the people then, because where before there was silent, then become a conversation about how to implement a new way of working and improve when there are something to improve. And when a team is formed, what do they want at the end? They want to have a leader that they can trust in. And when they look at the leader, how a leader can create a trust. Actually, one important thing to do, overpromise, promise less and over-deliver. So which means that you never go to promise too much, but you actually always try to over-deliver. This means, for example, with a practical example, your team come to you and they need a decision. And you're telling them, I will deliver your decision Friday. Then you give the decision on Wednesday. What does it mean for them? That their priority is your priority. Or they need more time this week because they have an important delivery this week. So you don't tell them, I ensure you time. You make them time. You cancel some meetings which are not necessary, and you speak with that client that you know you can tell him, this week we have to slow down with you because my guy says to prepare a test campaign. And this is very important, and we live this every day. Think about, I think from a point of view of a person living in Germany, I am a buyer from Amazon in Germany coupled with DHL. If I order something on Thursday evening, they tell me I deliver you on Monday morning. In 90% of the time, the product is on my door on Saturday morning. How do you think I feel about them? I became a loyal customer. Sure. So what is all of this about? It's always about have creativity and efficiency. In the past, they were seeing one opposite the other, but in the reality, they are not. Creativity without efficiency is chaos. Efficiency without creativity is repetition. And you enter as leader here. You have to balance both of them easily. If your team is not able to deliver because they don't have the right dashboard for doing a quick report, you give them the time to create the dashboard so that efficiency is gained via creativity. And if a blue collar, you leave him talking during a conversations and you create the environment that he can talk, he can tell you some trick about changing a little bit that 2 millimeter in the process that brings you hour of cutting of useless action. And this is what we want to do. Creativity plus efficiency to create a more thriving way of working. Said that, coming back to the point, when we have our delivery, when we have in the team that the mood is becoming low, that there is not this kind of collaboration, the trust is lost, is actually a situation where remember that fastener is removed because somebody has not given the right feedback, has not given the right transparency, has not given the possibility to people to grow. So what I want to leave you today with is think about this. Every time you give feedback with care, you tighten a fastener. Every time you deliver more than your promise, you tighten a fastener. Every time you choose transparency wisely, you tighten a fastener. Every time you make a change feel safe, you tighten a fastener. And my wish for all of you is that now, when you go back to your workplace, you take that conversation where you just tighten that fastener and you make your company become more strong, not only from outside, but also inside. Thank you.
Thank you, Daniela. That was absolutely brilliant. Really insightful. So I think it's great because you've really brought to life there examples of when you've been dealing with things, what you did. And I think, yes, our key takeaway for all of us is, yes, to definitely tighten that fastener. And I think that's absolutely brilliant. And I think when you've said there about being stronger inside out as well, I think that we could probably all resonate with where you've mentioned about shifting the emotion to enable a change. And I think we've all had where there's been a bit of resistance to change. And I think, again, you have been there where you've been trusted for them to be able to tell you how they're feeling, but also as well, you have listened to them. And I think that's a key thing as well, which obviously they felt listened to and they felt heard. So then they felt included. And I think that we've seen some common themes here from all three of you with key things that you've said, which have really resonated and really been helpful. Some absolute brilliant. I just wish we had longer today than an hour, everybody, because there's just so much like good things coming from today. It's brilliant. I love that you did name it, normalise it, navigate it. I think that's great to take away for any leader, manager, for any changes or anything where you're trying to be ensuring that you're getting things done properly. And also when you've said about transparency, I think again you've knocked it on the head there, but nail on the head by honesty, promising less and over delivering. I think that's great the way you brought that to life, so that we could actually all think about, oh God, yeah, we could do this, and it is possible to be done. Absolute brilliant. And they are definitely simple actions that do count. But I think humanising things, and when you said about making a mistake, again, because you were saying yes, it's a mistake, I've done this, but you've owned up to it, but then it does create trust from people. So absolutely brilliant. And this was funny when you were saying about feedback is a gift. And I think a question to all of us on today's session is, do we all make it feel like it's a gift when we're giving feedback? Yeah, so that's something I think for us all to think about after today's session. But brilliant. Thank you very much, Daniela. That's been excellent. And I'm sure everybody's enjoyed it. So next, obviously, we're going to go on to our exciting Q&A session. So we're going to bring all the amazing speakers back to the stage. And we do have two pre-submitted questions from Sarah and Sandra. So the first question that we have is, how can leaders balance delivering high performance with creating a culture where inclusion and psychological safety are non-negotiable? And what does accountability look like when the balance is broken? And I'd like to put that to Dr. Petra first, please.
Oh, thanks, Sarah. I think it's a really important question. And I suppose from my perspective, I think we often think about trade-offs, don't we? And I think psychological safety, or a culture of psychological safety, isn't necessarily a trade-off against performance. I think it's sort of like the foundation that can make performance high. I think I put on one of my slides, well-being and performance kind of go hand in hand. When people feel safe and included and able to speak up, then the performance tends to be better. If I know there's another question that comes up later, so I hopefully refer to that afterwards. So I think they go hand in hand. But I think in terms of the accountability, it's acknowledging that impact. And I think for all leaders, that kind of anxiety, our own performance anxiety, and admitting, if we haven't got things right, or if we haven't been inclusive, because if we exclude people, things are likely to go wrong in terms of well-being. So I think it's just that honesty, and owning up to it and talking about it, and that growth culture, that learning again as well, that we can all admit and we can all learn as well, and not being threatened by when things have gone wrong. I don't know if that answers the question properly.
No, that's brilliant. Yeah, thank you. No, that's great. And giving that question now to Kim, would you say anything different to Dr. Petra?
No, definitely. I would just build on it. In fact, I really took from what you had said, Dr. Petra, earlier, that it starts with ourselves. I really liked your 3 C's, particularly curiosity and compassion, and that's self-awareness. But also just ensuring all of this, as you said as well, Dr. Petra, is, inclusion and psychologically psychological safety do go hand in hand with performance. They're performance multipliers as opposed to what they're referred to as soft skills at times. But just building all of this into our processes right across the business, we've seen the benefit of DEI champions as well. Once you do have good policy in place, such as flexible working, etc., just having DEI champions as well to champion that. It's quite unfortunate, if you are in a situation of, this being broken. We've all worked in environments where this isn't done well. And that's so unfortunate. It just makes things like unconscious bias training just really important. And also back to your point, Daniela, just feedback is a gift and really helps us to open up to get feedback in these situations. Once as leaders we acknowledge this has been broken.
Brilliant. Thank you, Kim. That's great. Thank you very much. And Daniela, I know it's similar to what you've said, but
yes, it's a lot connected with my speech. But what I was thinking to add on top, actually, this question resonates me with the book I read from Patrick Lencioni, The 5 Dysfunction of a Team. And especially there was something that I took for me when I find the same situation. Sometimes you have a conflict. People bring on the conflict all above a meeting. And you arrive there that you need to find a solution. And you are in the meeting and say, what should I do? My point is take the voice of everybody, listen to them. And then at the end, in the meeting, you give the vision. What is the reason? Why are we here? Can we find a solution together? And then in the moment the solution is found, I go to everybody around the table and say, are you living okay with this solution? Are you committing today you are going to support it? Because by the way, if the person is not even 100% on board, but when he say, I'm going to be part of the team and work for it, you will see that the result is really different. And to put in a place visible who is going to do what, which look like strange, but in reality, it's simple to see, let me say, but it's actually very effective because you are on a board responsible for that action, which leads to the conclusion of that activity. So you are more willing to do that.
Brilliant. No, that's great, Daniela. Thank you. Now, I think you've all answered that question perfectly. So thank you. Hopefully Sarah's pleased with that. So going on to question 2 then now that we have from Sandra, how to roll out an EDI program to employees and get buy-in, and how would you like sell that basically to the team? And if I could ask Kim to answer that one first, please.
Yeah, no problems. I think we've covered a lot of this, but it does really start with leadership. It is really setting those objectives, just showing that leadership buy-in, and then, having DEI champions as well. But of course, as any of that, you want it to be much inclusive, cross-functional teams feeding into this, driving this. You can't over communicate as well, being very transparent. And then back to the ESGs, having safe spaces as well are really important too. But I'll hand over to Petra and Daniela, who are the real gurus in this area, I would say.
Yeah, and if Daniela, could you answer that one next then, please?
Yes. Well, I would say I have lived this kind of program delivered to the team, and I found it extremely good how it has been done. They take people which are diverse because they come from a different country, different age, different color, and so on, and they interview the person, and they ask the person why you love to work with us. And this person was going through that, explaining maybe the year of career he had in the company. And then they put that on in the intranet, in our company website. And then from there, they started an organization say, we would like to hear more about that and how we can fulfill the gap. And then I take part to it because I found it so cool. Even the possibility I could meet new people coming from other department, other country, and so on, and share with them my view on the thing, because actually only by the diversity you can increase the creativity, and then automatically having as well more efficiency and productivity. So it's all connected, you see.
Yeah, definitely all connected, and collaboration, isn't it, with it? And as you say, it's infectious then, isn't it? Because if you see something like you did on the internet, you want to get involved, then that's brilliant. It's really like successful, yeah. Excellent, brilliant. And Dr. Petra, how have you got anything different to add to that?
I don't think so. It's just, I think when it becomes more of a shared culture rather than a policy, it becomes meaningful. It's just about being meaningful, isn't it? I think programs succeed when they kind of speak to people's core needs at work, and they're genuine. They're not tokenistic. They're meaningful. So yeah, I think if people's needs are being met, or they feel that there's the opportunity that needs to be met, we want to be connected. No, that's our core requirement as humans, to connect with each other. So, more
it does make a difference, as you say, about with well-being and everything. Then it has a knock-on effect, doesn't it, by that initial connection? Yeah, brilliant. No, that's great then, thank you. And now we're going to go and see what questions that we've had from you lovely audience. So I've got David Ryder has said, how do you deal psychologically with rust out of a resource when the drivers and the needs of the individual do not wholly meet the requirements of the role they have? And is there anybody in particular of our panel that would like to answer that?
Maybe if I can.
Yeah, of course you can.
I have lived recently a situation like this. It's not exactly a burnout from a colleague, but suddenly she was out for a period, and we understood that she had some problem because maybe the demand was too much on her. And when we sit all together and we discuss how we can support this person differently, because maybe our speed does not match the speed of this person, and we cannot slow down. So how can we really bring her on speed with us? And we decided that this become a process. So I help her from one point of view, another colleague from another point, until this person become alone able to reach the speed. So it's really like you have somebody of the family who got sick, you need to support this person, not leave them alone because you have to do the race. You just need humanly, because they are, for me, my colleague, they must be part of the family. I have to have respect and love for them to work with them. Otherwise, I mean, it loses the sense for me to bring forward all my patients.
No, brilliant. I mean, that's great, isn't it? As you say, offer them the support because they're like family, which makes perfect sense. Yeah, thank you, Daniela. That's brilliant. And I don't know, does anybody else want to answer that, or shall we go to the next question? Brilliant. Yeah. Okay. So the next question we have. The next question that we have is from Anne Slater Brooks, and she's put, what do you, and this is for you, Petra, just to let you know, what do you propose if you are having personal challenges which are limiting your ability to show as much compassion as you would like?
Yeah, thanks, Anne. And I'd like to normalise that as well, because again, we can hold ourselves up in high standards, and life happens, doesn't it? Back to the compassionate bit is self-compassion. That ability to be compassionate to ourselves, put on our own oxygen masks first, in order to support everyone around us. We need to be able to look after ourselves. There is quite a lot written on this. There's a lot on self-compassion by Kristin Neff, N-E-F-F, and there are some tools and resources about that there, if that would be a good starting point. But sort of the ability to be compassionate towards ourselves and accept it from other people as well. Who else, can you talk to? Because work's tough, isn't it? And life's tough. I'm not sure about it can depend on the context as well. But yeah, self-compassion is always a good place to start, I think.
Brilliant. No, that's really good advice, I think, there. Thank you. Thanks very much, Dr. Petra. Our next question is from Alfred Tulip Briggs, and it's for anybody on the panel that feels that they would answer this one better. Excuse me. What would be the first thing that we should look at in our existing teams to see if we're achieving an inclusive culture?
Anybody is able to say what they think without being thinking that there will be retaliation. And of course, one nice thing is when you have a multicultural team, every culture has its own way of communicating. So it's nice if the people tell, if they don't understand each other, that they tell, can you explain me what you mean? Because maybe what you are saying and you are expressing in a language that probably is not your primary language, your mother tongue, is not exactly what the person in front of you is receiving. So putting on the table, we are different and we might have differences, but actually we can work together to understand them. If you create this kind of culture and you see that people apply it, you have gone through the road. You are on the right road.
Brilliant. That's great. Thank you very much, Daniela. That's great. And we are just reaching 1:30 now. So we have one last question from Faith Davis, which basically she's put here, what can inspiring managers and leaders do to encourage diversity and inclusion when we don't have direct influence on the decisions? So is there anybody in particular that would like on our panel to answer that one last question?
I don't mind saying so. I mean, I don't. Go on, Daniela. Yeah.
No, I'm sorry. I was just please background. Then I come.
I mean, I think it's just mentioning it, just keeping the conversation going, and things do change. And just raising it. I mean, it is tricky, isn't it? It's different because there's so many different structures and combinations of how organisations work. But I think just keep raising it and talking about it and sharing information. I don't know, what would you say, Danielle?
I would say how you think this person that he cannot really influence it, because if you have to do with your direct manager or leader, and actually you take one of the person which is coming from another culture and so on, and you make like a guest speaker in front of your manager, and you see what this person can bring up as perspective on something you work daily. Well, you are opening their mind, or at least you are trying to.
Yeah, definitely. No, that's brilliant then. So thank you very much to our panel there. That brings us to the end of our session. I'm sure you'll all agree that it's just flew by, hasn't it? We said that it'd go quickly, but it's been so fun and it's been action packed and it's been like really insightful and so much excellent information given there. So I'd just like to take this opportunity to basically say many thanks to our fabulous speakers for sharing their excellent insights, and also the CMI events team for doing all the work behind the scenes, also the CMI regional board, and of course you, our wonderful audience, for engaging today. We hope that you leave with some practical advice and tips, and that you can implement these in your own workplaces. But until our next event, enjoy the rest of your day and goodbye.
Ciao.
So that's it for today's session. Thank you to Donna, Kim, Petra and Daniela for your insight and expertise. Stay tuned to hear more about CMI membership, and thank you for joining us.
Don't forget, as a CMI member, you can find the latest management and leadership insights at managers.org.uk. If you're not yet a member, join our community to discover CMI Confidence with on-demand resources, our network of mentors and industry-leading accreditations.